Welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, where we talk trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. My name is Mobola Sandra, and I'll be having Fuhad Saheed joining in via the phone line to give in-depth analysis to all of the stories that we're going to be treating this morning. Okay, I trust we all had an amazing night rest. Some of us are still adjusting to resuming back from the long weekend, but we have to get back to work. Yes. Okay, so this beautiful day, the 26th of April, I'll be starting with the Guardian newspaper. But before then, let's say good morning to Fuhad. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much. All right, I'll start with the Guardian newspaper. Let's see what we have trending there. We have funds repatriation. Airfares hit new high as foreign airlines settle for 582 naira to $1. So we still have the issue of the foreign funds that's still with us. Yes, let me put it that way. The airline funds that's still with us. That's
Foreign airlines, yeah.
yes. And there are riders to this story. We have 6-hour economy return trip between 1.1 million to 2.97 million naira. And Qatar, European carriers repatriate from I&E window, reopen naira inventories. Air travel goes elitist, exclusive to the rich, and needs local capacity. So, for the third time in less than a month, the rate of exchange applicable to foreign airlines has ballooned, hitting 582 naira to $1, with attendant spike in the cost of international airfare. Fahad, air travel has gone elitist. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. My thoughts is it is what it is.
You are an elitist. That's what I'm asking.
Return, I think there's a figure for return tickets. They are just any return, an average return ticket now. You must have millions of naira. It's not anything that is affordable again. Again, it's just about forex. A lot of things are determined by how badly our naira is doing against the dollar, and we are able to also ensure we develop an economy where the naira is able to firm up against the dollar. We are going to begin to see things like this. Airfares have become completely elitist. I agree completely with that report. And the only way to solve it is to ensure that we build an economy that gives some value, sustainable value to the naira against the dollar. It can't continue to depreciate like this. They're going to run into big trouble. The economy is in complete shambles as it is. And that's what we're seeing. But again, it may not really affect anybody because, again, how many percentage of Nigerians really have to travel? Not something that affects the larger population of Nigerians. But even the elitist class that we're talking about, they are also feeling the heat when it comes to what they have to pay to travel.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. Isn't there any solution to this particular situation? I mean, it's making it even more difficult for the average person to say, "Oh, I just want to take a vacation," or I just probably you see parents, maybe they want to go and visit
if you want
their
to vacation,
children.
you have money.
No.
Well, that's why I'm not really bothered with this report.
Okay.
Anybody that goes on vacation
Vacation is just one. Vacation is just one. For we have situations where initially parents had to scribble money together, put all their funds together as a family to send if a family member or their child abroad for greener pastures and whatnot. But then you now have a situation where we have years and years and even decades where it's getting more difficult for families to reunite, for them to see, due to the fact that it's expensive for the parents to go over there, and people over there are also hustling. So we have situations where people and with all of that, it gives even a lot more psychological effects on people. I mean, there's a long-term situation that we're looking at here. So let's not say, okay, just because it's the elites that that's their problem. I think it's something that even goes beyond that, don't you think?
Well, it's a Nigerian problem, but what I'm saying is that again, it's part of what we have to face with a very bad economy, and with the fact that we have not been able to really do things that will firm up the naira against the dollar, solve a lot of our economic problems, to the extent that we can begin to put some value, some level of sustainable value on the naira. And until we're able to solve our balance of trade, where we're able to earn enough forex to solidify our naira, we'll continue to have this problem. It's just about the issue of forex. Like every other thing that is affected by forex, we're talking about air travel now and the attendant cost, which is rising. So it is part of the problem. What I'm just saying is that the reason why we may not really have much headache on this is that, hey, for anybody that has the money to even think of traveling, they are not part of the low income, majority population of Nigeria that we really have to worry about. You probably have to find a way to sort yourself out. But the reality is that air travel has become extremely expensive when it comes to international air travel.
I still beg to disagree, because to a certain extent, a businessman or a businesswoman has to pay almost 3 million naira to travel and bring in their goods. Imagine how much those goods will cost when they get to the country. Where when these same low income earners that had been shelved and say, oh, they don't travel, it's not their business, and then they now still have to suffer the consequences of that amount of airfare.
Well, it trickles down. I agree with you that for people who have to travel to bring in all of that, to trickle down, because what basically they will do is to pass the attendant cost on the consumer.
Hello.
The foreign.
Fuhad, could you move a bit? I can barely hear you.
Is it better now?
No.
Okay, you have to call me back.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, you're listening to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. Don't forget that we're live on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch the program live. You can as well drop your comments live as the conversation goes on. We're looking through the trending stories on the front pages of our dailies, and we're just going through the major headline on the front page of The Guardian, which says airfares hit new high as foreign airlines settle for 582 naira to $1. And also the repatriation situation where we've had locked funds for over 1 year, what the repayment efforts have been. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, moving on, we also have here, you're replicating Buhari's distasteful foreign medical trips. Oriwa tells Tinubu. And that is on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Is it too early to make such statements, Fuad? I mean, he's not yet in office.
Well, president-elect, he's not a president-elect, and so he's now.
A lot is expected.
It's important that we cannot begin to talk about it. Really, he's not. Okay. He's no longer a presidential aspirant. He's a president-elect now. He's probably going to. All things being equal, he will be taking the mantle of leadership in the next 30 days or so. So we can begin to talk about it. But again, for sake of proper information, not on any grounds did the president-elect say he went for medical treat. He said he went for vacation to rest. Although there are people who question why he has to rest outside the shores of the country, and there are not enough places in Nigeria where he could take his rest. But again, he has a right to decide where he wants to rest. Again, he's still not yet on the payroll of the country for us to say, oh, he's using taxpayers' money to do all of that. But again, not on any time did he say he went on a medical trip. Maybe part of his vacation could, include him checking himself up with his physicians and all of that. But again, I understand where Oluwa is coming from. I think, Sandra, we need to begin to create a perception that begins to tell Nigerians that we can trust the system here, whether it's in our schools, public health facilities, or even our health facilities here in the country. Because again, one of the things that people complain about throughout, and I think we need to talk about, was the fact that the president himself, President Mobola, spent days outside of the country attending to his health. And there are questions again about even our public health institutions. What attention are we paying to it? And should we have a situation where our public officials are compelled to use them? That may actually now bring some solutions to fixing the health sector if they are compelled to use what we have here. You know, there's this bill about doctors traveling after 5 years of graduation. And then what people are saying is that, look, if you ever have to even think about that kind of deal, why not also think about the bill that compels our public officials to use our health facilities here in Nigeria? Maybe they'll be forced to pay attention to those health facilities. So again, it's not too early to talk about the decision of the president-elect to go out on a vacation. He said it was a vacation. He didn't say it was a medical trip. But again, we should begin to set an agenda that begins to bring to the table the need to fix our public health institutions. Maybe if we are able to get legislation that compels our public officials to stay back home and use our health facilities here. But who's going to bail the cat? Who exactly will bail the cat?
All right. Well, there are more details on page 5, where we have the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria taking a swipe on the recent medical trips by President-elect Bola Tinubu, stressing that he has shown the tendency to take after President Buhari, who has a knack for similar venture. Okay. Well, more details are said on page 5. Let's move on now. Let's see. We also have here, darkness looms as TCN moves to disconnect defaulting discos and gencos. And that is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Nigerians could be thrown into darkness in the coming days as the transmission company of Nigeria yesterday said some distribution companies are at the verge of being disconnected over failure to comply with market rules. It's interesting. All right, so as it is now, I don't know if you remember, Fuhad, some few days ago, there were some gencos that threatened to down their tools. Yes, there was a report that some gencos were planning to down their tools, and they said that guidelines governing the Nigeria electricity supply industry are being flouted by operators. Now, as it is now, it's a very long and tedious read, but then the TCN is embarking on sanctioning of airing market participants. They said they've given them notices, they've given them time to comply with the rules. All of the rules are, stated here as should be. Well, as it is now, what's the way out of this? What's the way forward? And also, what should Nigerians be expecting from the power sector?
No, nothing. What else would they expect? We've been getting darkness. Nigerians have been paying for darkness. So what else are they going to expect? The report in itself is telling. It simply says Nigerians should get ready for looming darkness. So that's what they should expect. On a serious concern, I think there's a need for a complete reform of the power sector. The arrangement we have is not working, and it will not work. If it's not working, for how many years now? The reality is that it's not going to work. So we need to have a different direction. We need to go in a different direction, and that is looking at how to unbundle this thing completely. The idea of privatizing the gencos, privatizing the discos, and then of course holding on to the transmission company arrangement, for me is a bit funny. And what I as a permanent solution is a solution where we unbundle this entire thing completely. I'm also an advocate of a revocation of licenses of the discos. They don't have the capacity to function. We can't have discos where citizens are still the ones buying transformers. We can't have discos where citizens are the ones still buying poles, buying cable wires and all of that. We can't have discos who cannot distribute prepaid meters, which should be a good source of income for them, because if it's going to be prepaid, people pay before they use. We can't have discos where after so many years we still have them carry ladder up and down to disconnect people's lives because they're not giving them prepaid meter, which is supposed to solve the problem and give them sure money every month. So the reality is that what we have now, and that's the problem when we come up with a policy or an arrangement that has issues of vested interest, when people who don't understand what it's supposed to be when to go into a particular line of business get hold of it. Remember that the president said that, look, at the end of the Jonathan administration, a lot of people that got the licenses for the digital company don't have any business in that sector, don't even understand what they are supposed to do. There was no financial plan, there was no transmission plan, There was no plan at all. They just wanted the license. Now they can't even function properly. So I think the first thing is to find a way to revoke all those licenses, unbundle what we have as the national grid, and then have smaller units where people are able to generate, transmit, and distribute. You can have companies. For example, you can have a generation company that takes a generation transmission and distribution company that takes off the Kega alone. And that would be just that their own area. They supply, they do all the necessary things, they deal, and ensure that supply in that area is adequate in terms of power generation, distribution, and transmission. We need to unbundle the two. That's just the solution, and revoke these licenses. Or else we'll still continue the same story in the next 4 or 5 years, or even 8 years.
Well, in this particular report, we have the fact that the TCN has named defaulting market participants as comprising 9 discos, 3 Gencos, and a Jakarta Steel Company. Said the fallout of sanctions will be partial or complete disconnection of defaulters from their point of connection to the national grid. More details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. We already have we already have darkness situation, and as it is now, maybe looking forward to even more.
Maybe complete darkness. There's a difference between darkness and complete darkness.
Now that you tell me, I know. Now that you mentioned it, I didn't know. All right, moving on now. Hello?
I'm with you.
Okay. All right, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we have here interim government constitutionally forbidding fruit, but still tempting 30 years after. I don't know it's tempting, but let's see what it has in the report. So, okay, it's an analysis on its own. It's not really a report. It's an analysis of...
it is an editorial, right?
Yes, that's basically what it is, because it's just giving us, what's, the background of the call for interim government and the recent conversations as regards interim government, in recent times. And while critical stakeholders have continued to kick against the idea of an interim government, there are some that, say that while such government is not the solution, but the conduct of the last presidential election was faulty. Hence, still the conversation as regards interim government or not. But then, I like the headline though, constitutionally forbidding fruit, but yet still tempting. What are your thoughts? Especially against, what I just read, that some people are saying, yes, an interim government is not the solution, but the fact is that the conduct of the last presidential election was faulty. So, to be or not to be, constitutionally forbidden, but still tempting. What are your thoughts?
I have a problem with the word tempting. It's not tempting anything.
It's
not going to bring anything to the table. It's not going to solve our electoral problems, because there's no way an interim government will solve our electoral problems. It's going to even muddle it up the more. So I don't know where the idea of tempting is coming from. And I think we should be careful, even as editors, to begin to promote an idea of illegality with our editorials. I'm sorry. The idea of tempting, I don't know where it's coming from. It's tempting who precisely? And what would an interim government even come to solve? We tried it before, and we saw the results. The reality is that we have electoral issues. We need complete electoral reforms. And there are solutions. If you remember, Santa, Political Roundtable this Sunday, we talked about the 2008 Uwais report, Justice Uwais report. That's one report that we should begin to talk about as a solution, at least a start to the solution to electoral problems. There are enough recommendations in that Uwais report that will solve our electoral problems. Again, up till now, I'm still shocked that President Muhammadu Buhari never attempted to, implement the Uwais report, 2008 electoral reforms report of Justice Uwais. But for us to begin to promote an illegality because we have a problem in the electoral process, beats me completely, and I don't know where the idea of tempting is coming from.
All right,
we
so
should not, as media people, whether in the print or broadcast. Yes, I'm with you.
Fuhad,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please hold on. Let's all take 2 pills. It's not that hard. It's not that deep. Now, there is nowhere here.
For me, it is hard.
Hold on, please.
No,
hold on. Please hold on. Please hold on. Please hold on. I'm the one with the report. I am the one with the report. Please hold on.
Okay.
Thank you. So now, I have here in the report that's just, it's probably a clickbait. Now hold on, it's probably a clickbait, because if you look extensively into the analysis that's been done here, it's totally condemned. Okay, where we have a lot of people saying the constitution is clear, we're running a constitutional democracy. It's obviously understood, perfectly understood in this analysis. Now, still tempting, according to this report, is looking at the people who have brought up the conversation 30 years after it was tried and it failed, and why it failed and why it will still fail. Remember, I read from this report just now that while such government is not the solution, what they're focusing on now is the fact that there are some people who are not satisfied with the conduct of the last presidential election, citing it as faulty. Where in this same report we have here that anyone who is, as long as everyone, constitutionally participated in the election as required by, a democratic setting, if you lost, you lost. If you're not satisfied with the process and the outcome, the appropriate step is to head to court. All right. I have to put that out there, so not to totally condemn the people who put this together, because if you read this report extensively, they are saying that it's still tempting some people, and that's why the conversation is out. Remember, this conversation, we had been having that conversation since last year, even before the election, came about, before we had the elections at all. There have been some people saying, oh, there should be an interim government for at least 6 months and all of that, which a lot of Nigerians, a major number of Nigerians have totally condemned. All right. So let's not try to, while of course I understand, the apprehension of trying not to ensure that, it's not something that is being promoted and all, I would advise that you please calm down as you cite your opinion and thoughts and analysis on the issue.
I'm still going to say what I want to say.
Yeah, but softer.
And you
please.
must understand that. Look,
softer. It's not a it's not a big issue.
Yes.
Just please, Fuhad, I would appreciate.
It's a big issue for me because it's a big issue for me because I witnessed an interim government and I saw the consequences afterwards. So that's why it's a big issue. It may not be a big issue for you because maybe you do not witness it and you don't understand the consequences.
I'm not saying, please,
of promoting an illegality in the form of an editorial.
Fuhad, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much for sharing your analysis on the issue. While it's highly appreciated, of course, it is a serious issue and it is something that is not even supported constitutionally, and of course it is against the rule of law. I just wanted us to have a softer tone in the conversation, so it's not like, there's a big deal that we're trying to make out of this report by the Guardian newspaper.
It's a big deal. That's what I'm telling you. Wait,
okay,
let me explain
more
to you
details on page 4 of the Guardian
let me
newspaper.
explain. I have to explain to you why it's a big deal. I have to explain to you why it's a big deal. And you need to listen to me and learn what I'm trying to tell you.
And I'm only telling you, please just use a softer tone. That's what I mean by big deal. This tone.
How
just use a softer tone. Then we can have this conversation. Just a softer tone is what
how else do you want me to explain the issue? Okay, what I'm saying is that how else do you want me to explain the issue? I'm just requesting for a
softer tone. That's all. That's what I mean by big deal.
That's all. How soft do you want my tone to be on the issue?
We've been having conversations.
Can you explain to me how else you want it to be?
Carry on, Fuhad. Just please a softer tone. Thank you. I'm with you, Fuhad.
You can go with your paper. Just continue with your headline.
More details on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Prosecutorial challenge. Politics may set fleeing Adamawa wreck free. And that story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And what that report, of course, still on the embattled Adamawa resident electoral commissioner. So, despite the receipt of a letter from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, detailing alleged impropriety of actions of the wreck of Adamawa State, and the IGP directing an investigative team to expedite action on the contents of the letter, the possibility of prosecuting the fleeing wreck is low. And this is considering the fact that he has not been apprehended to aid the investigation authorized by the president, and also the confusion regarding the appropriate body to do so, if that is to happen. So, the report is saying that the fact, the absence thereof, or the absence of the REC now is making investigations difficult, and thereby there seems not to be any headway being made as regards this particular Adamawa situation.
Well, the problem with Adamawa situation is that, again, it's part of the big problems that we've been looking at. I don't understand how the REC has suddenly become something that we're looking for. This was a guy that was summoned to Abuja. He never appeared in INEC. There's a commissioner of police that sat with him on the day he made that illegal declaration. And there were officials of DSS. Unless the police authorities who are supposed to apprehend him are saying that, hey, he has left the country, I'm sure, this will also bring to the table the idea that he wasn't acting in isolation, that there were people behind him. That there's no way he would have done what he did on that fateful Sunday without the backing of some highly placed people in power. Because it is important that we use him as an example. It is important that we set this example with the REC in Adamawa to show that indeed, if I want to make any progress with our electoral reforms, it has to start with prosecuting people like this. From day one, I kept saying that there are enough grounds already to prosecute the REC in Adamawa State. There are enough grounds already to prosecute him. And for anybody to be telling us he's missing, they are looking for him, for me, it's not completely funny. And smears of all manner of hypocrisy and all of that. It is important that that man should be fished out and prosecuted, because what he did was enough to set the country on fire. The problem could start from Adamawa State and spread across the country. Already we are in a tense situation as it is from the results of the elections we had in the last election. And then you had one person who was supposed to understand the law, who at his level is a lawyer, should understand what the law says, doing that kind of a level of impunity. And then we are now saying he's missing. Missing to where? So it is important that that man is fished out and he starts being prosecuted. At least to serve as example to others.
Well, as it is
so,
now,
they are saying he's missing. Missing to where now?
His absence now is delaying further prosecution because now they can't find the REC as it is now. So that is what seems to be delaying the suspended REC of Adamawa. That is the update as regards that particular story. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Sudan crisis, federal government to airlift stranded Nigerians via safe routes, warns against treacherous journeys. And that is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. So the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, and her Foreign Affairs counterpart, Geoffrey Oyama, have said plans are underway to airlift Nigerians caught up in the ongoing crisis in Sudan. And deploring the growing humanitarian crisis, the statement urged citizens to reach out to the Nigerian mission in Sudan for further instructions. There are about 5 mobile numbers here, yes, that they can call if they have any situation at hand. Now, I would have loved to ask some questions as regards the evacuation process, but then the Guardian doesn't have so much details. I think there's the Punch has more details as regards the amount of funds and very comprehensive report. That's from the Punch. So when we get to that, we'll speak more as regards the Sudan crisis. But more details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. And we are talking about the trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. I have Fuhad Saheed joining in virtually via the phone line, giving in-depth analysis to the stories that we have on the front pages. Let's keep moving now. Let's move on to the Punch newspaper. And the major headline, Sudan conflict. Evacuation begins today as federal government releases 150 million naira and hires 40 buses. And there are riders to that. Federal government opposes night road trip. Logistic hiccups delayed Tuesday's planned evacuation. 3 Nigerian embassy officers escape death following attacks by Sudan's rapid support forces. All right, so Fuad, we have a situation here. The federal government has released 150 million naira, and they have hired 40 buses to convey, people or Nigerian nationals from Sudan to Cairo in Egypt. What are your thoughts as regards, the evacuation preparation, the funds that's been released, the 40 buses? We're talking about over 5,000 people to be evacuated with a 72-hour window of truce between the two warring factions. What are your thoughts as regards, the preparedness of Nigeria as regards evacuating our people?
Well, I think this is a good one, and it's the fact that we have a 72-hour ceasefire window to move our national affairs out of Sudan to Egypt. And, I had said that the possibility of using the Egyptian border, land border, or maybe through Ethiopia was on the table. But it's good that at least there's an agreement to get these people back to Nigeria through Egypt. Even there was a delay in all of these things, the safety of having to evacuate in a very chaotic situation, that Sudan has found itself. But it's a good one. I think it's a very good one that the fact that at least we're able to move our nationals out. It was a bit delayed, but it's understandable because when you have such a very chaotic situation, a war situation is a completely chaotic situation that you have to be careful to move people around or try to evacuate people. So it's a very good one. It would be nice to see our nationals back from Sudan. Again, it tells us that, look, there's no place that, like, we need to build our own and ensure that we'll continue to develop and progress.
What about, I know we started this conversation yesterday with Sage Babalola, but then as regards the voluntary support that Chief Allen Oyema, chairman of Air Peace Airline, who has accepted to airlift majority of these over 5,000 people, as long as the federal government can get them a safe and secure airport in any of the neighboring countries bordering Sudan. What about that? What would you say as regards that support or that effort that's been made by Chief Allen Oyema? And let's also not forget that this is not the first time that he would be, offering his aircrafts for evacuation of people. There was the report last year, I think, from Libya or so, where we also, the Air Peace Airline was also used to I think that was Ukraine. Yes, that was Ukraine, where Air Peace Airline was also used for evacuation, efforts.
Well, this is not the first time. Like you said, there are several situations. I think he did help Nigeria out of South Africa at the height of health effort to help and he does all of these things, of course, encourage other Nigerians.
On page 2, as regards the efforts made by the federal government for the evacuation of Nigerians in Sudan. Moving on now, we also have here, ex-presidential candidate asks court to stop May 29 inauguration. That story is on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And what we have here is Owuru. Okay. Owuru, who is a lawyer and also a president, or was a presidential candidate in 2019 under Hope Democratic Party. That party did not participate in the 2023 general elections, though. But Ambrose Owuru is a lawyer and was a presidential candidate of Hope Democratic Party in 2019. And he filed a suit, and there's a fresh motion on notice seeking to stop the inauguration of Bola Tinubu as Nigeria's next president on May 29. Owuru is the first applicant, while Hope Democratic Party is the second applicant, and listed as respondents are the president, the attorney general of the federation, and INEC. And Owuru and his party are praying the Court of Appeal to restrain the respondents from inaugurating. They are claiming that Tinubu won the. Oh no, sorry. They are claiming Uhuru is claiming that he won the 2019 presidential election and that he sought to be the president in office now instead of Buhari. So he's asking the court to stop Tinubu's inauguration so that he could be sworn in as president. Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
What?
I don't know whether to laugh or to.
What is?
I'm because this is.
He's
Yeah,
not.
well,
He's not contesting. He's not. No, Fuad. He's not.
2019.
He's not contesting 2023 election process. He's not contesting this 2023 election process, which Tinubu was a part of, and where we also constitutionally had other participants in the election process. This person is contesting an election that was held 4 years ago and saying that since he won.
Number one,
Okay.
Hello?
I'm with you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Again, I'm not a lawyer. I think it's an abuse of the judicial process. Because, again, there are timelines to even file petitions against elections and all of that. And so if you're going to be bringing the 2019 election to the table in 2023, I consider it, at least at the first instance, a complete abuse of the judicial process. And I think you might find a situation where the case is thrown out. But again, it's a case in court, and we're not supposed to preempt the courts on any matter at all, no matter how ridiculous we may think the case is. But I think it's a very ridiculous case. But again, I don't want to preempt the court on it. He has the right to go. People have the right to go to court to pray for anything at all. And this is one of those situations where people go to court. And on the outside, people like us begin to wonder where that is coming from. But again, it is what it is. He has gone to court. We'll see what the courts will say about this case. But it just beats me, and it's a bit shocking to see somebody talking about a 2019 election as a reason why inauguration should not happen in 2023. It's very shocking, and it's a bit laughable. But again, we'll see what the court will say on this one.
Well, excuse me. Among others, Uhuru maintained that Buhari had been usurping his tenure of office since 2019 because the Supreme Court had not. Hello?
Hello, I'm with you. I can hear you.
Oh, there's a feedback from your
end. I'm with
end.
you. I can hear you.
There's a feedback from your end. Okay. Okay.
Is it better now?
Yes, thank you. Uhuru had maintained that Buhari had been usurping his tenure of office since 2019 because the Supreme Court had not determined his petition filed in 2019, wherein he challenged Buhari's victory. 2023 remains and is viewed as an interim placeholder administration arranged, pending the hearing and determination of the substantive appeal on the constitutional interpretation thereof. Well, the man is a lawyer, so we'll see how this will turn out in court. More details on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on now, we also have federal government cuts power firms from national grid. We've already had this conversation from the Guardian newspaper, but what the Punch is reporting is that the federal government has already declared that they have commenced the disconnection of some power firms from the national grid as a result of their non-adherence to the electricity market rules. Although they did not name the affected power plants, the government explained that the Nigeria electricity supply industry was governed by rules which were absolutely necessary for the viability and sustainability of the sector. Okay, so people will be put in darkness now just because, their distribution companies, aired. Is that fair enough?
I think we should just revoke. We should just revoke these licenses. These guys don't have what it takes to do that job, or probably have a different arrangement in the power sector. The discos are just disco dancers. They are not. Look, ask an average Nigerian. Let them share their experiences with these discos, and you hear all manner of things. It's not even different from the arrangement of the OPACN that we have. People still buy transformers. They still buy cables. They are still the one fixing solution, their power problem themselves. I've seen stations where a community bought transformer. To even get the disco to come and fix the transformer that a community bought, they have to still pay them. So what are we expecting from that kind of, the disco? I think it was over the weekend that we had a report about some Ogun State communities that have been in darkness for over a year. And there was this conflict between Ikeja Electric and Ibadan Electric on who should service those communities, I think around Ogido in Ogun State. For over 1 year now, they've been in darkness. So I think we just need to withdraw these licenses and get something done differently.
Thank you very much. More details on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here assault. Police to prosecute spare parts dealer. Commissioner of Police fires DPO. That is on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. Above the masthead, we have here NAS leadership. Tinubu and NWC meet contestants. And that is on page 2. So barely 24 hours after the president-elect arrived in the country, the National Working Committee of the APC, led by Abdullahi Adamu, joined him and other stakeholders in a meeting with some contestants for the Senate president's seat. Well, there's a lot of source information here, but the zoning of the position was delayed by the absence of the president-elect initially, but now sources at the meeting are saying that the party was looking at the southeast and south-south for the Senate president, while the deputy Senate presidency might be zoned to the northwest. As mentioned earlier, sources are saying, okay. Would you like to give one or two before we move on to the next story?
No. That will be left for the APC and the party leadership to sort out. Again, there are people who feel that Bola Tinubu, Ajibola met Tinubu has what it takes politically to solve this problem, for the party. He's the president-elect, and I'm sure he's politically aware enough to understand that he has to get interested in what happens with the composition of the 10th Assembly, especially when it comes to principal positions and all of that. So it will be the first major political test for him as president-elect, and we'll see how he's going to respond to that. But again, a lot is going to happen. We are hoping to get a more vibrant National Assembly. A bit different from what we saw in the 9th Assembly. I think something more vibrant and more engaging.
All right, thank you very much. This is Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. We're moving on now to the Nation newspaper. Just one or two stories that we can take from there that we haven't taken. Above the masthead, we have NDDC to link oil producing states with $15 billion rail project. That is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. All right, and what we have is a $15 billion railway project that will link the 9 oil-producing states in the country is in the offing. Fuhad, your thoughts? Is it worth it? Is it necessary?
Again, okay. But we're just hoping that this is not one project that will take forever to be completed. I'm also probably going to be asking myself, where will the funds come from? Are we going to be borrowing these funds? Do we have the funds? Are these part of oil proceeds that we're setting aside to do this project? Or is it going to be another Chinese loan? It's important to ask the question. The figure is one thing. Is the money available? Where will the money come from? Is this going to be part of our oil proceeds that NDDC will be using, or we are taking another loan? It's important that we need to really establish that. But it's good to see that, again, the rail project is extended to parts of the Niger Delta. There have been questions about the rail project excluding some parts of the country. I think a lot of people have also questioned the fact that the Southeast is not completely integrated into the National Rail Project. So it would be nice to see that the South-South, the Niger Delta, the oil-producing states are included in the rail network as a chief. But I'm more concerned about where the money will come from. If the money is available, part of the NDDC budget is what is going to be used for this rail project.
All right. Well, as from this report, what we get is that full details of the rail project will be made known in due time. Because I tried to scan through the report for funding yes, funding lines and funding details, but I can't get anyone here from the report. But what we do have is that full details of the rail project will be made known in due time, and whether or not they'll be adopting a public-private partnership model as a vehicle for driving this would also be made known. All right, more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And we also have, okay, that's all we have, from the Nation newspaper. And finally now, let's see what we have from Vanguard. All right, the major headline polls. Obi's case threatened as Labour Party factions fight dirty. And we have riders. Apapa seeking to scuttle Obi's petition against Tinubu, says Abure. Puts judiciary, DSS, police, others on notice. It's cheap blackmail, says Apapa. So now, Fuhad, in the Labour Party, we have two factions, Lamidi, Apapa, and then we have the Abure faction. And then now we have Apapa going to request that the court throws out all petitions from the Labour Party and from Peter Obi, and of course the other faction coming forward to say, oh, don't listen to him, we're going ahead with our issues in court, or with our prayers in court, our petitions in court. What would you make of okay?
I'd like to really want us to dig into that story. Because I'll be shocked to read that Apapa is going to court telling them to withdraw all of the Labour Party's petitions.
Yes.
Again, there have been people speculating that Apapa, is thrown into the mix by fifth columnists who want, the Labour Party disintegrated, and of course, mess up the petition of the presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. That's the reason why Apapa is insisting on taking over the leadership of the party and all of that. But I doubt that he's taking over the leadership would have anything to do with the petition of the Labour Party in court, the substance of their petition. That's why I'm thinking that we should take the report holistically. If it's not just raising speculation that is what Apapa intends to do, or whether he has approached the court to demand that petition be dropped. So I think it's just mere speculation within the Labour Party that, look, this is the intention of this man to approach to the court to withdraw petitions. But I think that it's almost impossible to do that. The petitions are already in court. The substance of the case is already being discussed and all of that. And for you to think that, oh, you're going to come and say they should withdraw petitions, I doubt that would eventually happen or can ever happen. But the reality is that the Labour Party is in this crisis because, again, the reality of politics is playing out here. Politicians are very disruptive. Politicians sometimes come up with these things for different ulterior motive and all of that. It is still part of the politics that we are used to in the country. And I think, again, it is important that Mr. Peter Obi steps into this crisis. He's the de facto leader of that party. Without him, nobody will be talking about the Labour Party in practical terms. And I think he should get more involved with trying to resolve the crisis of the Labour Party.
All right, but okay, unfortunately, we don't have so much time. I would have asked further questions, as we have in the report that there may be moles being planted in the party to sabotage the efforts of the party, to move forward. Let me put it that way. From the.
Not impossible.
Okay. Well, more details on page 5
it's not impossible, yeah.
Vanguard newspaper. There's a whole lot more stories that we can get from Vanguard newspaper. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. However, we'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus, where we'll pick 1 or 2 trending stories, then open up the phone line for you to be a part of the conversation, and let's get your thoughts as regards, the many trending stories. Thank you very much, Fuhad. Please stand by. We'll be back by 8:40.